Birmingham is officially broke.
Second biggest city has effectively declared itself bankrupt this
City
week.
Council declaring itself effectively bankrupt.
Birmingham, one of the UK's largest cities, is officially bankrupt. It has the largest local authority in the whole of Europe. Services for more than 1.1 million people are now at risk. Birmingham is bankrupt, Birmingham is bankrupt, Birmingham is bankrupt. Yeah, see, every time I say it, it doesn't coalesce, it doesn't make it sound any better. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing reasons behind the financial crisis and whether people in the UK should actually consider leaving the UK. Because enough is enough. If libraries are actually shutting down in cities, that is crazy. Before we dive into this, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you have a notification bell so you never miss a video. Full disclosure, Birmingham is a Labour-run city. Now that could be a good thing depending on where you are in the food aisle. So it could be like steak, which is amazing, or it could be like avocados, which is terrible. So currently right now, the government have shut down all non-essential spending. So if you just try and apply for something to the local council, it's very likely to get rejected.
How dare you?
There is a crazy amount to unpack. You have like 950 million debt, 760 million in unequal claims that have not been paid, even 87 million pounds that just went missing. We call it a black hole. Black holes are something where money just goes, gone, disappears, and no one knows. And you thought that Saudi Arabia was corrupt. Trust me, money does go missing and you wonder where it goes to. I need to stress this to you guys. Birmingham is not the first city to go bankrupt. In the last 2 years, 7 cities in the UK have declared bankruptcy. And there are a couple of reasons for this. The first one being debt. Clearly, the people in power have not budgeted well. The only way that you accumulate debt is when you make promises and you can't keep them, or you have bills that rack up and you haven't actually paid them back. Just me thinking about it now, a strong indicator as to why you'd have debt would simply be because poor mismanagement. It's the people who are in charge that are running it to the ground.
Everybody who's suffering across the city, you know, anything that impacts them that the council has done wrong, we'll hold up our hands and we will say sorry for.
Now, and this could be why people are blaming Labour, and I understand, because generally Labour and people on the left tend to have a very positive and optimistic point of view, where they think that they can pay for everything, literally everything under the sun. So the next topic is the black hole. Now, I don't have anything to say about this, because really and truly that just means that they lost the money. Put in the comments down below what you think actually went on, like how can you lose that amount of money, who actually has it, because money has to go somewhere. Money doesn't just get lost, money has to go somewhere. It has to be transferred from one person to another. So someone does have that money, we just don't know who. The next thing we have is the lawsuits. Now, what perplexed me about this is in the UK, we don't really have a lot of grey areas. We have black and white. What is discrimination? What's not discrimination? What's racism? What's sexism? It's very clear. I'm just going to be straight honest. Let's call a spade a spade. How can we identify 760 million pound in an equal payment? So what that is cases of just strong and blatant sexism, like where you're paying someone differently because their gender. Like, that is disgusting. But also, how's that took place? Because how do we recognize this? Like, what does that actually look like? Like, how can you tell an employer is paying you differently because your gender? Like, how can you prove that? Because ultimately there is a strong reason why people are paid differently, and there are a plethora of reasons why. Skill set being one of them, age being another factor. You've got background, experience, all these factors. Do you actually fit well into the team? And a large part of that is, have you asked for high rate? Because the term is, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask, you don't receive. Guys, I'm very curious about this. When was the last time you went to your employer and you asked, okay, you're going to pay me 26,000 a year? I want 30,000 a year because I believe I have the skill set and experience for that. When was the last time you really negotiated for those higher rates? Because according to the statistics, only 39% of people demand higher rates. I know for a fact I am certainly in that 39%. Where do you think you lie in this? But ultimately, the employer paying my colleague 26,000 and then paying me 24,000, how do we really prove that's because we have two different genders and not because of the plethora of reasons I just listed? Now, it doesn't take a genius to use Google. So I used Google and some other websites to find out how to actually prove that sexism and that type of discrimination goes on in the workplace. And basically it's very simple. You basically do an audit of the whole year of the compensation plan for that company. Then you compare all the earnings of every single male in the company compared to all the earnings of every single female in the company. You then rank them by salary. And then you also look at all the lowest paying jobs and all the highest paying jobs and ask, are they females, are they males, and what are the proportions? If there is some weird discrepancy, you need to then ask the employer why this is the case. And now if he has justified reasons for whether it's experience or it just, not coincidence per se, but there's actual reasons, then that's fine. But if there was no reason for this, then one could look into further, maybe that actually is a case of discrimination. When it comes to court, and this was taken to court, and the main thing you have to prove in court is, would I have been paid higher if I was a different gender? Now that is a very, very hard thing to prove. So according to mainstream media, a lot of women who were working for the city council, who were working for cleaners, were basically not paid the bonuses compared to their male colleagues in different areas. Now, to me, I just think you can't compare one area and another. So two different jobs and two different payments. I think if you're looking at the same job, then you can compare. But if you're looking at two different things and then you're trying to say, well, they're paid more, well, the compensation plan might be different. But in this case, we can actually see that it was taken to court and it was proven in court. So they must have had a substantial amount of evidence to prove and actually get it stamped. And that means on the macro scale, maybe not now, but in the past, Birmingham must have been sexist to a certain degree. And I'm just going to put it out there. If you're an employer and you know that a woman's going on maternity leave, I do think it's wrong to not employ a woman solely because you know that she's going to take maternity leave somewhere down her career. I think that's wrong. I think if someone's put a lot of hard work into the company, if you've been working in the company for the last 3 years, you should be entitled to maternity pay and you shouldn't have a problem with it, because the chances are you probably know the person, you probably know the kids, and you probably want them to actually do well with their family and raising up the early stages. The problem that I could potentially see is if an employer, when you're asking for the job, an employer just goes, do you plan to have children in the next 5-6 months? For them to ask that is very wrong. And a larger issue here is that having 760 million claims of unequal pay, and that's the payout, well, you have to look at the earning capacity of Birmingham City Council. If you're earning 800 million a year and you get slapped with a fine that's 760, that would only leave you with 40 million to survive, and no city council can survive on 40 million. So you can see why they would have to declare bankruptcy. So there are 3 clear solutions that need to take place in this situation. So 1 is pay the claims, because it's a lot of money. 2 is you need to hire new staff in the city council, because to lose 700 million as a black hole is unacceptable. And 3 is to having zero tolerance to sexism and discrimination. Now, the second part of this video is to determine whether you should actually consider leaving the UK. I would say to determine whether you would like to leave the UK or not, you need to look at the economic status of the UK. Now, this brings us into 4 things, because we're really going to look at, are we better post-Brexit? And there are 4 main factors you need to include when you're talking about Brexit. And the 4th one you should look at because it's very interesting. So the first one is public finances. Are we better in terms of public finances? The answer is no, because post-Brexit, we have lost up to 30 billion in taxes and tax revenue. So that just means that 30 billion that we used to get, we don't get anymore. And number 2 would be fairness. So something that we were constantly pushing for is we want the UK to be more fair. And now, is the UK more fair as a result of Brexit? Well, look at that is, has the minimum wage increased? Because that's what's fair. And the answer is no. So fairness hasn't increased. And is there more discrimination? No. But is there less discrimination? No. So it hasn't really helped us in that way. Third way you look at it is open borders or openness, to be honest. And yes, migration has definitely changed. Like, there was definitely a lot less migrants coming in, and the migrants that are coming in, most of them are way more educated than before. So that's definitely a good thing in terms of immigration and stuff. And that, I know that was really important for people for Brexit, is the whole border thing, you know, anti-immigration. That's definitely a success in terms of effectively people who are coming into this country are now more skilled than ever been before. However, we were expecting a lot of trade with different foreign countries, and we've seen a 15% reduction in exports, so trading with exports, and that is obviously not a good thing. So on one level, migration, that's been a good thing, but on the other level, it's not been a good thing. And the last one, so if you're still watching, the last one is control, because a lot of people wanted the control back over the country, which I understand. You don't want people in Europe, in European courts, telling us what we can do as British people. That makes sense. I completely understand that. And on that note, we've had an amazing amount of success, because we essentially have complete autonomy over all the court rulings. If you actually want to consider leaving the UK, that's a whole different type of video, because honestly, you have to look at the options. So what's Canada saying? What's America saying? And right now, we're doing very good compared to other countries, because other countries are Birmingham might have a very large crisis at hand, but because you've seen that it has one of the largest services in the whole of Europe, it makes sense that if there's a problem going on in each city in the UK, that it's going to affect Birmingham on a macro level. Tell me what you think about the Birmingham crisis. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. And if you love finance talk, you better subscribe.